And so began the Castle Robot Rebellion of 10 BBY, a momentous event in the history of droid rights. But who was its mysterious leader, L3-37? Where was she manufactured? What was her relationship to Lando Calrissian?
Just roommates, according to historians. Welcome to Queerly Read, where I queer media, past and present. And this time, we're talking about L3-37, hero of the droid liberation movement and a casualty of questionable scriptwriting, and her adventures in gender. L3 started to existence as an R3-type astromech droid. You know, those really awkwardly designed barrels with limbs and assorted other appendages. To me, astromech droids have always been like dogs. Really smart dogs that can fix your spaceship, but not quite people level. And just like dogs, they kinda don't have gender. Oh, okay. Dogs get gendered, but when you're just looking at one, is it a girl? Is it a boy? No, it's dog. And yeah, apparently according to Wikipedia, basically all of them named astromechs have masculine programming, whatever that means. But that's something for a totally different, much better researched video. And honestly, it's just more interesting to think that L3 created her whole gender. If we think of her like this, she subverts essentialist ideas of sex and gender. For those uninitiated, gender essentialism's basic claim is that men and women are fundamentally different, and women, and that's all women everywhere at any time in history, are characterized by biologized feminine traits, such as nurturance, empathy, and supporting others. Generally unselfish, self-sacrificing traits. So you know, gender role basics a la patriarchy, except also used by some types of feminism largely uninterrogated. Oh, and TERFs. TERFs love that shit. L3 certainly doesn't fit into these traits, and any trait that she might have can't be biologized. I mean, she doesn't have a biology to begin with, and she hasn't tried to make her body like that of the female organics either. Sure, it's humanoid, but there aren't obvious gendering features. The gender is all artifice, and it has the potential to show that all gender is kind of artificial. And although that word has a kind of negative echo to it, it does sound better than just wholesale recycling oppressive ideas like gender essentialism, doesn't it? But as much as I like to think that her gender comes from nothing, I know it doesn't. Instead, it serves to complete the unreasonable activist trope she's introduced with.
You need anything?
Equal rights?
Because equal rights are quite unreasonable. Although, why is L3 a woman? I'm not asking why she chose to construct herself as a woman, but why do we, the audience, think that? Okay, I haven't actually checked everything L3 has appeared in, so if she declares her gender in any of those, may I be cast into the abyss of ill research for all time. But in Solo, she never says she's a woman.
I can feel you looking at me.
But it is heavily implied. Other people refer to her with feminine pronouns. Her voice also has a bright resonance and generally higher pitch.
Good luck finding it.
By human standards, at least. And of course, there's this line.
Oh, please. It's just us. You don't have to pretend. I'm in the same situation.
This seems to imply that L3 thinks there is something connecting her with Queero.
He's in love with you.
Han is not in love with me.
I'm sure you've noticed that Lando has feelings for me.
Although it could just be the situation both are in. But even if it is a gender similarity, it doesn't automatically mean the same gender. I personally feel more similar to women than men, but to me it's the similarity between not man and woman. So, do pronouns, voice, and some similarity a woman make? As I mentioned earlier, L3 hasn't tried to construct her body according to any gender expectation. Her body is built for herself. Same goes for her programming, and thus, gender. So what is she then? Short answer, homemade. slightly longer answer. Unlike droids that keep their programmed gender, she doesn't really fit into the categories of the organics. In essence, she is non-binary. If not in identity, then in description. That is, she doesn't fit into the gender binary. And I mean, she has to be queer. She dies and is promptly forgotten when she's no longer useful to the Straits. Right. I guess we'll talk about that then.
Previously, we saw how the robot rebellion began. In today's film, we'll show you how it prematurely ended.
Well, it doesn't end quite there. No, it ends much worse. You know what would be the most horrifying fate for my queer self? Not being able to define my body. As much as Western philosophy loves the good old Cartesian body-mind divide, I can't really agree with it. The body defines how we experience and interact with the world and how we experience ourselves. Our bodies in part define the limits of our world, and if we look at how L3 has modified herself, we can see that a lot of the changes are about personal mobility and ability to interact with the world. And at the same time, those modifications change how the world interacts with her. And once she has become part of the Falcon, how can she interact with the world? How does the world interact with her?
She is a hell of a ship.
If we forget for a moment that the only reason L3 had to die like this in the first place is because of a couple throwaway lines in another movie, it would have been preferable for her to just die rather than be confined in a body she has no real control over. A fate worse than death for someone who has strived for bodily autonomy her whole existence. And the worst thing is, nothing's really stopping the humans around her helping her get a new body. Or maybe there's some obscure law reason, but really? But she's just too useful to them in this form. Compliant and silent. Oh yeah, and this line sounds mighty creepy if L3 is the ship now.
You really have it bad for the Falcon, don't you?
It's mutual, trust me. She belongs with me.
Ew. Just ew.